Shot in his face. Bears Commanders.
But Şengün was great.
This was billed as a Rookie of the Year showdown, but with Jayden nursing some sore ribs, it might be a battle of Pac-12 Heisman Trophy winners. Caleb versus Marcus Mariota. Here's Caleb on any budding rivalry with Jayden.
Like I said, happy for him, and great to see him balling out.
You embrace the storylines, though. You're going home. It's 1 against 2 in the draft. Do you get into that, or do you?
No. My job is to go win games on Thursdays, Sundays, and Mondays. So that's it.
Offensive Rookie of the Year odds, Jayden's still number 1, then Caleb, then Malik. Is it fair if Caleb, your guy, becomes the Rookie of the Year favorite if Jayden is out?
It's the definition of fair. Though if he plays well, the single most important thing for every quarterback in this league is to be available. It's the single most important thing.
That's any player.
Here's I guess the slight caveat I would say. I would say quarterbacks in particular almost have an obligation to not fight for the extra yard and do those things to preserve their body, because you're not starting multiple receivers. You're not it is your starting quarterback, and because the best quarterbacks in history all have one thing in common. It's like, oh, he played every game for 7 years. He played every game for. So I agree. Of course, you're right about every position, but I think it's particularly important for the quarterback spot. And then you add to it that even with Jayden playing, it's a closer race than people think. Over the course of the season, we can show you the numbers. They are obviously in Jayden's favor, even though the total touchdowns closer than you think, the total yards per game is probably closer than you think. But then one guy is trending in one direction, the other guy's trending in the other. Since week 3, which is half the season, Caleb's playing his best football. Jayden's still playing excellent, but Caleb's been better. And so if he misses time, then obviously it's fair for Caleb to take over Rookie of the Year. Obviously.
I think it's fair if Caleb plays well. Like if Caleb goes out Sunday and plays a great game, the 4th game over 100, a 4th straight game over 100 passer rating, I'm fine with it because availability is big. I'm fine if he moves ahead, if he plays well. Now, if he plays poorly, or even if they win, but he, doesn't have a good game, maybe has no touchdowns, 1 interception, I don't think you move him ahead just because, he at least played. But yeah, if he plays well, he has been rolling, obviously. I got no problem with it.
Yeah, look, injuries are a part of the game. So you can't stop playing or stop rewarding a guy who is available and able to play at a high level because the other guy isn't. Like, guys lose jobs because of injuries, and the game continues to be played. So, I mean, if Caleb goes out there and plays well, I'm with you guys. Yes, and he's deserving of it, of course. Because when he was playing bad, which is a part of games as well, we were handing it over to Jayden immediately. So, I mean, if he's not available, that's on
anybody else in the mix? This is not just a Drake May thing, but do you see anybody else outside of these top 3
I mean,
guys?
with the way that they're playing, the numbers that they're
Simpson stars.
Welcome back to the show. Devontae's Jets debut stat line, 3 catches, 30 yards, and several pointed critiques of the Jets team unity and celebration routine, specifically after this Breece Hall run. Here's Devontae's critiques and Rodgers' reaction. Take a listen.
I had reservations about speaking up too early and being too vocal too early, but I felt like, in my mind I said F that because I need to, we don't have time, and I got to do whatever I got to do to help this team move forward. And lacking energy, that's a prerequisite to be able to go out there and have a good year or have a good play. This team being so talented on roster-wise, it's just a waste to have everybody out there and to have a dead sideline like that. Breece catch a ball and go 60, and we can't feed off none of the energy.
Paraphrase without using any French, I thought it was the realest speech I'd ever heard in a locker room in 20 years.
Wow, that's high praise. Reaction.
Well, I credit to Davante Adams for doing that. And he prefaced it, when he started by saying, look, I know I just got here and all that stuff. So I credit him. That's leadership. The problem is the reason they may be so listless and lack so much energy might be his buddy, Aaron Rodgers. Because all the reports whether it's true, I'm not in their locker room, but the reports are that the players, especially the defensive players, really liked Robert Saleh. Like Sauce Gardner said, we're doing this like playing the rest of the season for Saleh.
Yeah, that was odd.
But they seem to have liked him. So if they like Saleh, feel he was doing a good job, and on his side of the ball, I know he's the head coach, but his side of the ball was doing his job. Then the superstar comes in, and if they feel like he got him fired, which a lot of people feel like, we don't know the truth, but to feel like Rodgers got Saleh fired, that can dampen the spirit in a locker room. Mm-hmm. If you feel like this dude didn't deserve it, we loved him or liked him, and he got him fired, and he's not even playing well. It's hard for players, and Greg, you can speak to this better than me, but from my experience as a reporter, it's hard for players to play with a teammate that they feel runs the organization. LeBron used to get some criticism for this, like because he has so much power. When players feel like he could cut me, he could trade me, that's tough. LeBron was able to lead teams to the finals, but Aaron Rodgers is looking washed. And so that, I think that can dampen a team's spirit. So that might be the reason they don't have energy.
Yeah, I think you're spot on as it pertains to Devontae and the things that he said. Like, I love that he said something. I'm glad he didn't just sit back and just watch it. It's kind of it's one of those moments where you have to go back to when he was very successful as a not just an individual, but even as a player on a good team, and that was in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers. And so you kind of compare where you've been and the experiences of where you've been. The one thing that I will say about him speaking up and why he probably has the ear already of almost everyone in that locker room is because of what he's been able to do in this league, and he's a fresh, new voice with different perspectives they will listen to. And they probably know if there's one person in this building that can hold the other guy, number 8, accountable because of respect, it's Devontae. So it's not that he can just say this because of what is not happening for all individuals excluding Aaron Rodgers. It is including Aaron Rodgers. Like, we got to be better. Yep. And he understands, like, when you are in the locker room, you can't remove yourself from being a part of the locker room. And what I mean by that is sometimes even with LeBron, he would say, my guys, they got to do this, and he would almost like exclude himself. But when you have a guy who is highly revered in the locker room and outside of the locker room as one of the better players in the league that can hold himself to the fire, and I think Devontae is that type of a guy, and we hear it from Aaron, but we don't really feel it.
Oh. So I understand that. I guess I have a very different perspective on this than Brew and Greg. First one, I don't feel like the Jets are a team. I feel like there's two teams. There's the Jets and then there's the former Packers. And that's how they're discussed, and that's the way. And when Aaron's talking about we've done it before, and by we I mean me, Devontae, and Lazard, when Devontae, 5 days after getting there, has his Al Pacino speech, and Aaron Rodgers then says, best speech I've ever heard, I do wonder how the people who aren't Aaron's crew, that lands with all of them. Mm-hmm. I also know, and maybe this is my own flaws, but if I don't want to be lectured by someone that just got here. I don't. And I will use a.
I don't think you want to be lectured by anybody.
No, but I will use me and KW right now, if we may.
Oh, geez.
So
you warned me about.
I did. I told him beforehand. I was like, I'm gonna tell a story. There is.
Oh wow.
At this moment, Wilds is maybe the #1 draft pick of people I will listen to advice on television stuff from. I've always known he was smart about it. We've worked together for years now. I have massive respect for his opinions on things.
Go sideways on this.
Okay? 4 days after Wilds joined the show, pre-pandemic, you weren't a full-time. We were in the old building in the mornings. It's a Friday after. Wilds had done 4 shows. And Wilds is holding court in the conference room, explaining how we're going to fix the ratings of the first half hour. And I lost my mind. And he saw it, and he was like, "What do you?" I was like, and I was like, "I'm worried about tomorrow's show." And he was like, "Well, I'm trying to." He goes, the quote was, "That's easy. Let's think bigger picture." And I flipped out because I was like, even if everything he was saying was smart and correct, which it was, I was like, man, I've been getting up at 3:30 in the morning for 3 years doing this. And if I'm in that Jets locker room and I'm like, man, I've been dealing with this nonsense as an organization since I was drafted.
Hey,
Devontae, you got here